Welcome back to Leadership Blueprints, everybody. I'm your host, BJ Kramer. Today, we are digging into a DoD to AEC episode. We are going to talk about the leadership challenges, transitioning from the military into private sector, maybe the lessons learned, maybe the lessons that had to evolve. Excited to welcome my guest, Chris Banks. He's one of many Naval Academy grads that we've had on here. We gotta do a better job selecting, but excited to dig in. So if you are a transitioning veteran, I think you're going to get something out of this. If you transition from the military and already are in the construction industry, maybe you will identify with this conversation and hopefully walk away with some lessons learned. Chris Banks, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
Excited to dig in. Let's do the 30-second elevator pitch on who Chris Banks is today at Banks Industrial Group.
My name is Chris. I am the president of Banks Industrial Group. I am a 20-year Navy veteran. I flew airplanes for EA-6B prowlers for the U.S. Navy. I now run a company that, a construction company that builds nothing but can fix anything. That's our marketing tag. My construction guys in the field hate that tag, but they don't realize that it's a little bit of marketing.
Yeah.
We provide maintenance services in the industrial space. So think oil and gas facilities, chemical plants, manufacturing plants, hospitals, universities, things of that nature.
Big complex facilities, mission critical facilities.
Yeah, absolutely.
All the operations and maintenance support side of that. Awesome. All right, you transition off active duty.
2016,
10 years ago.
Yeah,
Time
10 years
flies
ago.
when you're having fun.
Yeah. Now I'm part of the problem.
Talk to us about some leadership lessons from the Navy that you've been able to apply or maybe have had to adjust as you've taken on a leadership role in the private sector.
Yeah, sure. So I was very blessed early on in my career with being mentored by leaders who were really, really great examples. I also had had the benefit of being mentored by some leaders who were really, really bad examples. So I got to see both. But one of my first commanding officers that I encountered, he was a commanding officer of the USS Constellation, which is the ship that we embarked upon, my squadron embarked upon. And he talked almost religiously about mission. Talked religiously about mission and people literally every day. On any Navy ship, they have what's called the 1MC, which is a speaker system that you can literally talk to everybody on the ship with, right? And, most commanding officers use it, once or twice a day. It's kind of like the school bell at your elementary school, similar. Except Jamie Kelly was his name. He'd get on it 5, 6, 7 times a day to talk about whatever was on his mind. But what was always on his mind were mission and people. He did a great job of walking around, leadership by walking around, walking spaces, meeting sailors. And there's 5,000 people on a ship, right? So you're meeting somebody new literally every day. And he also had a photographic memory, I think. And he would meet sailors and ask them what their life story was. And then he'd get on the 1MC and talk about them and talk about how great of a job, SK2 Jones was doing down in the galley that day or whatever it was. And then he would relate what SK2 Jones's job was to the mission. And he just kept talking about it over and over and over again. And that has always stuck with me. So we spend a lot of time at Banks Industrial, number one, talking about the mission, and then talking about our core values and how we accomplish that mission.
What is the mission of the Banks Industrial Group?
Our mission is to save American jobs by making the plants we work in safer, more productive, more efficient. There's a long line. I think Billy Joel had a song called Allentown about, the demise of American industrial might.
Yeah.
So, our business relies on keeping these guys in business.
Totally.
So it felt like a good mission to take.
I was just rereading The Infinite Game, and I was reminded that part of leadership and part of playing an infinite game to keep people engaged and to feel like you have a mission is to have a just cause. And I would say Save American Jobs is about as good of a just cause as you could rally people around. So I think that one that connects back to your idea of marketing, it connects to your customer, but it also connects to your employees, even if you're not building anything.
Yeah,
you're just fixing things.
Yeah, it's a completely different business model, and it's really cool. We have we have 4 core values: family first, safety at any cost, not safety first, safety at any cost. Do what's best for the customer, and then be fair to everyone. Number 3, do what's best for the customer, inextricably ties itself to that mission.
Totally.
So we're just constantly talking about mission, people, core values.
That's awesome. How much of what you learned in the Navy, fighter pilot, dangerous job, risk management, risk mitigation all the time, how much of that has applied into, you're in industrial facilities where risk is, a clean site is a safe site is every construction tagline. But when you get into these very dangerous industrial environments, how much of that, I feel like safety is this leadership cadence that has to be, every toolbox talk, every safety brief, every safety stand down is about keeping people safe. How much of that has translated and what has been more difficult, if so, in the civilian side than military?
100% translatable. The Navy is more similar to, especially to a construction company, than I had ever dreamed possible. I think the biggest, the safety element of it, look, an aircraft carrier is rated by Lloyd's of London as the world's most dangerous industrial environment.
I was just going to say, it's a floating industrial plant.
It is. And if you've ever walked on...
And a floating city, all in the same place. You got
and
heads and beds, and you got meds, and you got it all.
You've got it all. And you've got people from all walks of life. You've got a really, especially on the flight deck in particular, it's very hot. It's very noisy. You're wearing a lot of intrusive gear on your head. You're listening to multiple channels talk to you at the same time while you're trying to interact with people on the deck itself, like physically communicating via hand signals. There's a lot of really dangerous elements that go into it. So that being said, I think sometimes my challenge is translating that experience into what we do. And we work in industrial environments. And in the Navy, we spent a ton of time trying to address the peak risk, the most catastrophic possible outcome of something. And you spend a ton of time trying to pound all of the risk out of it.
Yep.
Right. Aircraft carrier.
What is the most catastrophic risk on an aircraft carrier?
Well, like just for an example, a couple examples, a catapult that fails to fire or fires what's called a soft cat, where it doesn't deliver the required velocity for the aircraft on the end, or a cable snapping, an arresting wire snapping, or something that happened to me when I was an arresting gear officer. We had an aircraft hit the ramp. So a Hornet has 3 landing gear, the nose gear and the 2 main gear. So in this case, the nose gear made the ramp. The main landing gear did not.
Ooh.
So he landed kind of half on the carrier, half off, and then he sheared off. I sheared off his main mounts, went trundling down the thing. Actually caught the second arresting wire, pulled it out. I think it was like 120 flight deck feet. Pilot thought that he had safely arrested, and then his hook snapped. He went off the end of the carrier. Rotated left, and then had to eject.
Wow.
He ejected about 90 degrees left wing down at 45 feet into the water at night off the coast of Australia. So anyway, I was 30 feet to the right of that as the arresting gear officer. And from there, it's just chaos. So not to divert into that long story. Sorry, that took a sidetrack there. In business, like the challenge is you want to pound as much risk out of it as you can. But if you spend all your time trying to get to zero risk, you'll never make any money.
Right.
And you'll take forever to get to. You won't meet.
You'll never deliver the client's needs.
You'll never meet cost, schedule, performance metrics that you need to stay in business to save their jobs.
Yeah.
So that's a challenge, But we've kind of figured it out. One of the things we do in our business is, so in naval aviation, before every single flight, crew or every single airstrike, it doesn't matter how complicated or simple the flight is. We do a plan, we do a brief, we go and execute it, then we do a debrief. And that debrief part, that learning afterwards, the film study, if you will. I know you like your football analogies. That's where all the learning happens. And we spend time in our business. We've identified all the jobs that require a certain level of plan, a certain level of brief, a certain level of debrief between the sales team, the ops team, and even the business team afterwards.
That's great.
So
you brought up an interesting point that project delivery is one mission,
right?
Taking care of the client. And then we as business owners, we're running multiple missions,
right?
With an overall mission of running a healthy, profitable business.
Yeah.
Because to your point, if you don't deliver profit, you're not going to be able to do your job to save American jobs. So
right.
Our mission is to deliver profitability and growth so that we can continue to deliver jobs and deliver paychecks to our employees. It's the one thing that when I came off active duty, I had this leadership experience. I felt like I understood people. I felt like I really understood project management. But if I had to go to the range and plan a range mission, I knew how to run the project. I was never responsible for the P&L attached to the project.
Yeah.
And a lot of transitioning vets, I think, romanticize business ownership, business leadership. And we really are underserved in being responsible for P&L. How did you get up to speed on that? And how have you balanced the leadership of project teams and people with a healthy, profitable business?
Yeah. So I took enough accounting in my MBA to be dangerous. So
to know what a P&L was.
To know what a P&L was, and to know what a statement of cash flow is, and to know what the balance sheet says. And, so that's the first step. If you
sure,
your P&L,
and a textbook understanding of it.
Your accounting statements are your scoreboard, right?
Yeah.
And you can't perform, whether it's on a field or in a business or whatever, unless you know what the score is.
Right.
Right. And you act differently up 5 goals in the third quarter or down 2 in the third quarter, right? So you have to look to those statements to see where that's going. So that's the first thing. Familiarize yourself with that. And once I got comfortable with that, then I was like, okay, I kind of have an idea of how this game is played.
Yeah.
In the Navy, I was a maintenance officer. I was where I had 4 aircraft assigned to our division. I had about 180 sailors maintaining them. I had another division where on an aircraft carrier where I was responsible for 254 people, 4 catapults, 4 arresting gear, and all the visual landing systems. And I just used assets however I wanted to, and I would deploy labor, 24/7 if need be.
Totally.
Without any regard to what it cost.
Yeah.
Everybody
was getting a paycheck every 2 weeks, no matter what.
Everybody got a paycheck, no matter what.
And the mission's 24/7.
And the mission's 24/7. And it was just like, hey, no, you're delivering a result. That's it.
Totally.
And it doesn't matter what the cost is, get me to that result.
Yeah.
Now, occasionally, if you're doing things incredibly inefficiently, it comes to light.
For sure.
On my aircraft carrier, I had a scenario where it actually wasn't my aircraft carrier. I was with somebody else's, but the way the crews were maintaining the arresting gear, they were using these series of consumables in the wrong way. And so they kept burning through it, and then the ship ran out of it. And then all of a sudden, then it came to light about their efficiency in using this consumable. And once this consumable came out of what wasn't in the supply system, then the commanding officer is like, wait, what do you mean I can't fix?
I'm non-mission capable.
That's right.
Yeah.
What do you mean the 4-wire is down? Well, sir, there's a whole lot of tap dancing going on. So anyway.
You got an appreciation for that then.
I definitely got an appreciation for it. But, we have a dashboard for it, like almost everything in our business.
Yeah.
What's the plan? We spend a lot of time looking over in gross margin reviews and whatnot. What was our plan? What did we expect to make? How much labor do we expect to use? How much did we use? Et cetera. And then we debrief that. The executive team debriefs it, and the project team, especially when things go wrong, they're like, what do you mean we broke even on this?
Right.
Well, we should have made X margin. We didn't. Why?
Yeah.
So we spend a lot of time looking at that.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up because I go back to every sailor was getting a paycheck.
Yeah.
I think that is the hardest emotional responsibility you bear as a business owner. Is now I'm responsible for people's livelihoods.
Sobering responsibility.
They are too. I'm not alleviating anybody at MCFA from being responsible for your own career, but there is that responsibility, and it is the one thing that is the most different to me about business leadership from military leadership. Military leadership, take care of your troops, execute the mission, care about your troops and their families, like know them back to mission and people. And it was Jamie Kelly you mentioned. That is pounded into us, but Uncle Sam's always taking care of the paycheck. If somebody is contemplating starting a business or transitioning off active duty, getting into business, what would you say about that sobering responsibility?
That's been probably one of the hardest things for me as well. I always lamented when I was in the Navy that I couldn't take HR personnel actions as quickly as I would have liked to. Yeah. I mean, I had one day where I had a commanding officer ask me, I had 110 people assigned to me in this one thing. And I said, we were supposed to have 70. We were the part of a manning experiment that was going on in the Navy. I had too many people. Yeah. I didn't know what to do with them all. And the guy asked me, the commanding officer asked me, like, well, how can you be better? How can you be more efficient? I'm like, yeah, you could get rid of these 40 guys that I don't need, because they become 40 headaches, So, yeah. Or they can.
A soldier or a sailor without a mission is
100% idle hands.
Is dangerous.
Idle hands. Something about the devil and idle hands. So I have that ability to make that impact now, but it's a great responsibility, and I take it very, very seriously. And our first core value is family first, and so I take it super, super, super personally. Like whenever I do have to say goodbye to somebody, it's the hardest thing you do. Totally. In all honesty, the hardest thing you do.
Take me back. How did you end up at the Naval Academy?
An interview with Jim Saxton's then the then congressman from our district, District 3 at the time. I was in the interview. I was trying to get an Air Force Academy nomination because I knew I wanted to fly, and I had been an Air Force junior RTC in high school. Okay, and so I was predisposed to go in the Air Force. Frankly, I don't like boats and I don't like the water in general. I like swimming pools. Not a big fan of the ocean. But one of the panelists asked me this question and says, you want to be an officer in the military and you want to fly jets. The Navy flies jets. Are you interested in Annapolis? And I looked at the person who asked me that and I said, I just want to serve my country. and I want to fly jets, and I don't care what uniform it is. So whatever you can do to help me get to there, I would really appreciate it. And next thing you know, I got a letter saying that we've nominated you to both Air Force and Navy. And then I was like, I didn't really, honestly, I had applied, but it was like kind of perfunctory.
Yeah.
Trying to keep options open. And next thing you know, I get in, and then I went and took a visit, and I met this one guy. His name is Gary Sullivan. And Gary, if you're out there and listening, he changed my life. He took a special interest in me as a high school student and just said, he made my visit for...
He's a mid at the time?
He was a mid. He was a plebe at the time. And I got assigned to him as his drag. That's what we call him. And he took me to everything. I mean, he was a cross-country runner. I was a cross-country runner. He took me to practice, showed me around. Like, literally, his time was my time. And he made the experience amazing for me and totally changed my life. Those two little things changed my life. All in that could have gone
short period of time.
In a very short period of time, and could have gone the other way.
And that made all the difference. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right. So that's how you got into the Navy. We heard a little bit about your Navy story. Talk to me about when you were getting off active duty, trying to figure out what you want to be when you grow up, and how you got through that transition. I find a lot of us, as soon as you take the uniform off, all right, I have to get a job, but we're used to a profession, we're used to a career, we're used to service. How did you navigate that, and what was on your mind?
Well, my wife and I just had our first child about a year and a half before I retired from active duty. We were in DC. We didn't know anybody down there. And DC is a unique place in that everybody is double income, no kids, and nobody has time to be neighbors. So you feel kind of alone, and we felt like we needed to be more connected to family. So that was definitely a big play in what we decided to do. But what I really wanted was impact. I felt like I'd come from an organization that had a process for everything, but you could make an impact on nothing. I had a job working in the Pentagon for the chief of the Navy, the CNO. And I always felt like my takeaway from my 2 years of working in his personal office, which is a soul-crushing experience at times, but incredibly instructive in leadership, especially executive leadership of a large organization. I felt like I could walk into the CNO's office and say, CNO, look at this. I've got the cure for cancer. And CNO would look and go and look at my 10-slide deck and go, oh, this is really interesting, Chris. Let's study that. And then you'd have to brief it 37 more times to get somebody to say, oh yeah, maybe we should do this cure for cancer. I'm in jest.
No.
But I felt like
I know what you mean.
I felt like you could make an impact on literally nothing. And so I wanted to go the opposite way. And I ended up coming to an organization that had a process for nothing, but you could make an impact on everything.
Right.
In fact, I still say to this day, and our process is definitely far improved from where we were 10 years ago. But I always say, like, to anybody new that's coming here, I'm like, hey, the great thing about this place is we have some things figured out. We don't have it all figured out.
Yeah.
So if there's something that is preventing you from saving American jobs or living out the core values or doing your job or making your work-life balance better, go in the bathroom, look in the mirror, and that's the person who's going to solve it. Mm. And so everybody can have a chance to make an impact on what it is we do. And so that's what I really wanted out of my transition. You brought up the one question, what do I want to be when I grow up?
Yeah.
I think for every transitioning officer, enlisted, whatever, if you're in the construction industry right now, or if you're in the military industry, or whatever profession you are, knowing what you want to be when you grow up is like a gift. I was really lucky. Like when I was a kid, I saw Top Gun in 1986, and I came home to my mom after seeing that movie. I said, Mom, that's what I want to do. And that's it. And I was very focused.
And you still thought you were going to the Air Force Academy.
And I still thought I was going to the Air Force Academy. Yeah. And super focused. And that focus was a gift because I had a goal. It was achievable and I was able to do it. In fact, after my first flight and flight training, it was right before Christmas, and the weather in Pensacola at the time was really bad. I had one possible flight left before we went on Christmas break. It was the first Christmas after I graduated. And I said to my instructor, look, sir, I know that this weather is junk, but I gotta get up in the air before I come home for Christmas break. And he goes, all right, we're going, let's go. Even if we get nothing done, we're going flying. I'm like, okay, awesome. And that was the greatest thing ever. It was such a huge accomplishment. From that moment forward, I was sitting there thinking to myself, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
And even now I'm like, what's next? What's next? What do I still don't feel like I'm grown up, by the way. I'm 52, but I still want to examine that question. And everybody out there that's listening to this should be asking themselves that question. And if you can't answer it, that's okay. That's fine. But you should spend some time thinking about it before you go and apply for a job or take a location or move your family wherever. Find a place that aligns with your mission, that aligns with your need for impact.
One, we're going to probably get to railing on corporate America and bureaucracies here, just because we're two small business guys that both, to your point, we're looking to be in an organization where we can make an impact, because we came from two of the largest organizations in the world where, while you can always make an impact, it does feel like the ability to impact strategically is hard. But I think that's also a lesson in what we were talking about before we got on the show, which is selling into an organization. Working in a large bureaucracy forces you to learn how to be patient in your sales approach. Lesson for a different time. Corporate America promises you a little bit of what we had in the military. Paycheck every 2 weeks, some level of responsibility, a big mission that you can hopefully feel connected to. I never felt that connected to any mission outside of the military like I would in the military. But in the Army, having a company, having your team, having your identity, that was the lowest level of leadership that you felt like, you know what, I can have an impact on culture. Yes, we're a part of a bigger organization culture. And it's what drew me to, I had a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit. I probably had some ambitions of growing something of my own, but it was this trade-off of, I know that corporate makes you grind, but it was this trade-off of having a little bit of autonomy and really a huge step back in starting salary from some of the other options that I just felt like, I feel like I'm just joining a bigger organization. So give me the sales pitch, or give our audience the sales pitch for considering small business America when they transition off.
Yeah, absolutely. You talked a lot about big corporations and mission. And if shareholder value is the only mission, it's not really a mission.
Back to just cause.
Yeah.
The infinite game. Shareholder value quarter to quarter is driving many, many, many decisions inside of.
Yeah. Profit is a mission. And it's necessary in order to get, but it needs to be something as a means to get to something bigger.
Yep.
Whatever that bigger is. For people considering their next step in life, I mean, small business is great. Will you get the guaranteed, the huge benefit package that a large Fortune 20, Fortune 100 company can give you? Yeah, probably not. But man, you can just make so much more of an impact. Now, your quality of life also can be so much better. Like in terms of, first of all, there's small businesses literally everywhere in America. So wherever it is that you really want to be, right? People need three things out of what they want to be: compensation, location, and some
vocation.
Vocation. Sorry, mission. Of some sort. So you can satisfy a lot of that in so many more places.
Yep.
As opposed to I don't want to pick on say Apple. Okay, Apple has locations in Silicon Valley. They have some places in Raleigh, North Carolina, and not a whole lot in between. There's so many other places that you can go in small and medium-sized businesses that have really great missions, and it may require you to sacrifice something. Yeah, I mean, I took a 33% pay cut when I came to Banks Industrial for the first time. That was a hard conversation, you know. Fortunately, I was a retiree, so
you could subsidize your
income. I had a little bit of a backstop. I had healthcare I had my healthcare covered, and I had a pension coming in, so it allowed me to take some risk.
I think that is one of the things that people underestimate. You get so you may get focused on, well, it's my chance to double dip and get ahead. Or you can say, well, it's my 2-year safety net to rebuild myself and build a new skill set. And I think that's the real punchline is because you get to make an impact, and you may have to take a step back at first. You also can find ways to create so much more value by picking up problems that you might not get to touch at a larger organization because you're going to be buried somewhere in a department doing the mission they handed you instead of trying to impact the overall mission of the organization.
Military retirees, I think, can be America's secret weapon in terms of entrepreneurship because they have that little backstop. It allows them to take more risk than your average person could take, knowing that, hey, at the end of the day, I've got a roof over my head and I have my healthcare to deal with. Assuming they have that entrepreneurial spirit.
Totally.
And can shed the whatever calcifications that the large organization, large bureaucracy put on them, right? If they can get past the PTSD of say working in the Pentagon, for example.
Which, if you're in the local New Jersey area, use our SkillBridge program. I mean, we are DOD to AEC SkillBridge. Get in touch with Jesse Gemmerling Johnson. Not everybody comes to MCFA, but our network is pretty strong here in the area, and you might meet us and land at Banks Industrial Group. So we'd love to talk to you. I am going to switch gears to some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
We have traded libraries. What is your most gifted or most referred to book in your library?
Most referred to? Okay. Well, in terms of referral, The Wisdom of the Bullfrog is a really great one. I think I've given that book to you.
Did.
Yeah. By Admiral McRaven. There's a ton of wisdom in there if you've ever seen his speeches or whatnot. But he really boils it down to something.
He's the make your bed guy.
He's the make your bed guy. And he's famous for make your bed. But his books tend to be, number one, pretty short. Each chapter is digestible in about 5 to 6 minutes. So it's something that can sit on your nightstand at night and you can read one chapter and then go to bed and do it very, very quickly. And then he does a great job also with format of at the end, he also always gives you your top 3 takeaways you should have understood from this chapter. So if nothing else, even if you don't even read it, you could just go through and read the summaries and be like, yep, I'm good. But now the stories in there are priceless. The lessons are priceless. So referred to, that's what I read.
All right. How about favorite book?
Favorite book is probably The Rise of Theodore Roosevelt. Amazing guy. Complicated. My takeaway, I read it quite a while ago, but Roosevelt used to read 80 to 90 books per year. Now, granted, in the 1800s, there wasn't, he didn't have Netflix.
There's no distractions.
There was no distractions. But he would also read them in multiple languages. He spoke like seven languages.
Really?
Yeah. He would negotiate with foreign leaders in their language. So, in fact, there's a story in there about how Kaiser Wilhelm had put a blockade on, I think it was Venezuela at the time. And Roosevelt sent the U.S. Navy to deal with, to scurry them away, and sent Kaiser Wilhelm a letter in German telling him to get out of our backyard. And Wilhelm reportedly read the story in German, said, "This is not a man to be trifled with," and recalled the ships. And there's a ton of stories in there.
90 books a year.
Yeah, 90 books a year in 7 languages.
That's amazing.
Yeah, just an incredible guy, and the fact that he was he was obviously a big fan of the U.S. Navy, the Great White Fleet, but also into conservation and outdoors, an avid outdoorsman. Just all things that I
Renaissance man.
All things that I identify with.
Yeah, you got to get on your language game.
Americans in general do, but especially me.
Any favorite quotes?
There's one that hangs in my conference room. I heard it from, I can't say it's my own, but one question: are you a person that makes things happen? Are you a person that watches things happen? Or are you a person who wonders what just happened? That's probably my favorite quote, and I use it all the time. And sometimes I've asked that in interviews and people have gotten the answer wrong. I think the answer is obvious, but.
I do too. If you could have dinner with 3 people that are alive, who would they be?
I will say collectively my grandparents is the first one. And definitely give anything to have an adult conversation with them again.
Yeah.
I think Abe Lincoln would be a second, just because you and I are both in small business and we're in constant wondering, like, are we going to make it to be medium size? Are we going to make it to be large size? And it's very difficult seeing the outside of the bottle while you're in it, while you're in the bottle. And Lincoln probably he had no idea how this was going to turn out. Like, he was taking big risks and he was making big swings. I mean, during the Civil War, the guy funded the Union Pacific Railroad, right? Talk about vision, right? He could have spent every last dime on that war instead. That was his existential threat, right?
Yep.
But he had the vision to go, no, if we connect these coasts, amazing. So that's the second. And then the third, I think, would be my 18-year-old self. Would love to go back and talk to my 18-year-old self. And
I don't know if I could tolerate my 18-year-old self.
I don't know that I could either, but would love to give him a few pointers.
Yeah.
Talk him out of a few mistakes, and then tell him to buy as much Apple, Microsoft,
right.
NVIDIA, and Amazon as he could.
and hang in there, kid. The Eagles will win a Super Bowl.
Yes, that's exactly right. It'll all, it's funny. In high school, we had to put a quote in our high school yearbook, in the index on our senior year. And my quote was always from Tom Petty's Running Down a Dream. And the quote is, there's something good waiting down this road. I'm picking up whatever's mine. And I've always sort of used that as like my optimistic path forward.
Yeah. That
no matter how bad it gets, there's always a day when you can, get in the car, a sunny day, drive, and life is good.
Yeah. Amen to that.
Yeah.
Close us out. Anything we missed, or any closing maybe wisdom or inspiration to our audience in uniform, transitioning out of uniform, or maybe never served in uniform, just leadership guidance?
I use a quote that my second commanding officer used to say. I'll give you just a small little background. At the time, our squadron was in a little bit, the morale was pretty low. We just had some maintenance issues that didn't go the way we planned. And everybody was kind of down in the dumps. And he walked into the room one day and just stood up and looked at us all the junior officers and all the officers in the room. And he said, your job is to talk about how good the tomato on that shit sandwich tastes. Never forgotten that. And so, I mean, his thing is always be positive as best you can.
Yeah. And
always have people look at the bright side.
That's good. Colin Powell, optimism is a force multiplier.
That's right. That's right.
Chris Banks, thanks for taking the time. Thanks for sharing a little bit of your transition, a little bit of your career, a little bit of your wisdom in leadership.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Hey, everybody, do us a favor. If you're enjoying the show, like, subscribe, share it with others. In particular with, transitioning vets, mission near and dear to our hearts. We both went through that transition process. If we can do anything to help you transition or think through next steps, we're both happy to do so. So connect with us on LinkedIn And until next time, have a great week and a great weekend.